towards Earth. Detected by a Russian robotic telescope, it's one of the largest and most dangerous space rocks approaching our planet's orbit. RT's Murad Gaziev looks at the threat from the void.
Humanity's last experience with a large asteroid was painful. Almost 2 years ago, the Chelyabinsk meteor, traveling at 19 kilometers a second, exploded in the skies above Russia. The blast was dozens of times more powerful than an atomic bomb. But that meteor was only 20 or so meters in diameter, weighing about as much as the Eiffel Tower. This new asteroid is an entirely different story. It's 20 times bigger, the size of a village, weighing millions of times more. If this asteroid, for now called 2014 UR116, flew into our atmosphere, it wouldn't just burn up in the air and shatter windows. This would hit the planet's surface, potentially killing millions. But calm for now. It's not yet on a collision course with Earth. The danger is, as it passes near planets and the sun, gravity could alter its path. In fact, the Russian Space Agency, which detected UR116, has satellites watching just for such objects. And it's not only Russia. An American observatory a decade ago detected another similar asteroid. There was a big scare about that, if you remember. Apophis was named after the Egyptian god of evil, and asteroids its size hit Earth on average once in 80,000 years. NASA gave it a very real chance of impacting our planet, though that was later revised down. But the danger from asteroids is very real, and astronomers are increasingly keeping an eye out and thinking about what to do if they confirm a collision course, though don't expect anything quite as dramatic as Bruce Willis leading his team of misfits to save the world.
It's been almost 10 years since little Pluto was demoted from being a planet, but today scientists from the California Institute of Technology have announced that they finally have solid evidence for a planet X, a true ninth planet on the edge of our solar system.
It is believed to be far beyond the orbit of Pluto, roughly the size of Neptune, with a mass 10 times that of Earth.
There are things out there, little icy objects that are orbiting in a funny way, and nobody was quite sure why. It seemed like there might be something with gravity pulling on them, but nobody quite understood. And finally, these scientists that you talked about took a really hard look at it, did simulations, calculations, and they came up with the explanation. It probably is this giant planet.
I think I read somewhere it orbits the sun every 10,000 to 20,000 years.
Right.
Is that why no one has seen it to this point?
No, that's not why. It's because it's so dim. It's so far away that even though it's big, it's very, very dim, and it'd be very tough to spot with a telescope.
I'm also fascinated at the idea that this planet could be so far out there and still our sun be the mass that is keeping it in the gravitational pull of our solar system.
Right, yeah, but no, it's true.
That's incredible. And so there was a thought at one point from scientists that when they thought that there was something beyond Pluto, that it might have been all the massive objects floating in the Kuiper Belt, but it's not.
Right, so all those objects are out there and they have a lot of mass, and originally the scientists said, look, a planet is such a crazy idea, maybe it's the Kuiper Belt itself that's pulling it on itself and making these orbits look funny.
And when we talk about the mass of this planet X, this ninth planet, being 10 times that of Earth, for those who are not scientists, what does that really mean, the mass of the planet versus Earth's mass?
Well, if you could put it on a scale, how much it would weigh.
Yeah.
I mean, that's really it. And so it's bigger, it's bulkier, it's got more heft, it's got more gravity. It's this huge elephant in the living room, except we didn't know it was there.
You mentioned that scientists haven't seen it yet because of how far away it is and how dim it is. Is there a way for them to get visual evidence?
Yes, so the biggest telescopes in the world can theoretically see this thing if they're looking in exactly the right place. And with the publication of this new paper today, they are now going to start to look in earnest.
How much further out there is this planet X than the rest of the planets in the solar system? I mean,
so Pluto we think of as the really out at the very edge, the very farthest thing that you could call a planet, even though we don't anymore. And
I'm still supporting Pluto's right to be a planet.
But this thing is 5 times further out than Pluto.
Fascinating. Is there any chance it's not a planet?
No, there's always. It's very foolish to say no chance because you just don't know what you don't know. But the odds are looking very, very good.
60 billion miles from the sun.
Yep.
Amazing stuff. Michael Lemonick, thank you so much. Fascinating stuff.
Great, thanks.
And one thing you were talking about is the disclosure of Planet X, when you think it'll happen. You think it'll be 40 days out. Well, when you go to space.com, that's a very credible website. It's not like a gullible.com or something like that. And I don't really know much about gullible.com. I just use that for an example. And I remember back in 2007, 2008, when I was researching things about Planet X, I mentioned Planet X to the church every now and then because, like you, I do believe that it has caused different events in the history of the world, and I do believe it will cause the sixth seal, which is why I think the topic is so very relevant to these times to talk about the sixth seal in Planet X, because now in the mainstream news, they're beginning to disclose tidbits of information about Planet X, a little bit here, a little bit there. And I remember back in 08 and 09, there was people, they were saying, hey, when we get close to this thing, you're going to start hearing them admit it slowly. Well, this started about a year ago. I started hearing, like on Fox News or CNN or whatnot, they was talking about Planet X. And my ears were perked up because I remembered they're starting to talk about this. And there was a time that NASA, they absolutely waylaid anyone. I mean, you can get on YouTube and search NASA scientist Planet X, and there's this guy on there, and he is just absolutely saying, don't worry about it, it's nothing, we would all know. But boy, how times have changed, because let me read you this headline from space.com. It says, Mysterious Planet X. This is from January the 16th, 2015. Space.com. Mysterious Planet X may really lurk undiscovered in our solar system. When you say something's undiscovered, you're saying a lot. I think without saying a lot is how one fellow put it. A Planet X might actually exist. This is what the article says. And so might Planet Y. At least two planets larger than Earth likely lurk in the dark depths of space far beyond Pluto, just waiting to be discovered, a new analyst of the orbits of extreme trans-Neptunian objects, or the etnos, suggests. So they found these etnos. Researchers studied 13, it says right here, frigid bodies such as the dwarf planet Sedna that cruise around the sun at great distances in the elliptical paths. The article goes on to say that these bodies they found out past Neptune, again called etnos. This is from space.com, January of 2015. The actual article is January the 16th, so if you want to see it, it's by Mike Wall, space.com, senior writer. These etnos were being disturbed, and it caught the eyes of these scientists. And they say the reason is because these planets are out there, Planet X, maybe Planet Y. And it goes on to talk about some different things concerning these planets. And I'm going to tell you something. If my suspicion's correct, you're going to continually hear more and more of these kind of articles coming out in the mainstream until they finally say, hey, we found it, even though a lot of people believe they've always known that it's there. What do you think, Brother Gil?
Oh, without a doubt, they're going to condition the public to where they slowly adapt to the idea, to where there's not a panic. But when it comes to 40 days, shortly after that, there'll be a panic because it's steadily increasing in size as it's approaching us. And I don't know how else to put this, but it's going to be a frightening. If you don't know the science well enough on what to expect during the passing of this next event, it's going to be very, very serious to a person.
So this is the actual discovery image. Basically, two astronomers were looking one little patch of sky very, very far away, looking for exactly this kind of thing. Stars don't move. Planets or anything that's like a planet does. So this is color-coded. This is what they saw on different nights. They're looking for one thing moving. They color-coded it to show that all these stars are staying still. This thing is moving, and the way it's moving...
So this is just one...
It's one object, color-coded.
Is Pluto on this?
Pluto's in a whole different part of the sky.
So this is way out there.
This is way out there. This is more than twice as far away as Pluto.
Unbelievable. Why does this matter, Corey?
Well, there are two ways you can look at it. I think I look at it first of all as an exploration question. That we know where we are on Earth. We've mapped our planet. Our solar system is still terra incognita. It's full of surprises. This object is something that astronomers said shouldn't even be there. There's a whole other solar system beyond the planets that we know that are full of these things that are sort of planets, sort of comets. Some of them they call dwarf planets. That's what they're calling this one. What we're seeing is we're seeing our neighborhood. We're seeing what's around us. And then the second part, we're seeing where we came from.
For the first time in 170 years, evidence of this ninth planet was found on the far edge of the system. Astronomers at the California Institute of Technology have not directly seen it yet, but they think it's up to 10 times bigger than Earth and 20 times farther away than Neptune.
Two scientists at Caltech say they've discovered a ninth planet in the outer corners of our solar system.
It's pretty exciting to know it's out there and waiting to be found. 2 years ago, we realized that there was something funny going on in the outer solar system.
What these orbits are showing us, they're showing us sort of a gravitational one-way sign towards the existence of an additional body.
These researchers say for the last 13 years, a handful of objects have been found by other astronomers, and all of these objects swing in the same direction.
That can't happen by chance, so we knew something funny was going on.
Many may remember Mike Brown for his role in demoting Pluto as a planet about a decade ago.
What's the evidence that it's there?
So the evidence is that we can look at objects orbiting around our solar system and figure out why their motions are the way they are because of the gravitational influences of everything else around. So
На этой неделе на небе появился новый объект, слабая красноватая точка. Пока ее наблюдают только астрономы, но уже к маю 2011 года ее можно будет увидеть и невооруженным глазом. Это темная планета, она же Нибиру, таинственная часть нашей Солнечной системы. Вероятность ее существования НАСА признала лишь в 1982 году, при том, что шумеры еще 5000 лет назад уже называли ее крылатым диском и утверждали, что появление Нибиру на небосклоне сулит одни неприятности. Какие именно, выяснил Александр Огородников.
Может ли небо упасть на Землю? Вопрос уже не актуальный. Прогрессивное человечество ждет более грандиозного события – падения на Землю другой планеты. Конечно, не в прямом смысле слова, но планета Нибиру подлетит к нам так близко, что последствия могут быть катастрофическими. Дело в том, что Нибиру, или как еще ее называют планета X, гораздо крупнее Земли, а значит ее гравитационное поле гораздо сильнее. Его разрушительное влияние мы почувствуем в конце 2012 года, когда сближение будет максимальным. Как следствие, изменение наклона нашей планеты, а соответственно и полюсов. Глобальное похолодание там, где сейчас тепло, и очередной всемирный потоп. 2/3 населения нашей планеты попросту погибнет. Согласно одной из теорий, Нибиру – это планета богов. В древних текстах их еще называли анунаки, то есть сошедшие с небес.
Раз в 3600 лет она якобы появляется, приближается к Солнечной системе, к Земле.
Согласно некоторым расчетам, к 2011 году темную планету будет видно
в 5 раз пройдет по орбите в опасной близости от нашей планеты. Сила его притяжения будет настолько мощной, что Земля может поменять наклон. Если это случится, то изменившаяся ось вызовет смену магнитных полюсов. И тогда на планету обрушатся невиданные силы наводнения и извержения вулкана, сметающие все на своем пути смерчи и землетрясения. Это Захарий Ситчин, знаменитый американский ученый. В 1978 году Ситчин делает сенсационное заявление. В Солнечной системе вовсе не 9 планет, как считает официальная наука, а 10. По утверждению ученого, кроме всем известных планет, существует еще одна – Нибиру. Она блуждает в космосе по невероятно вытянутой орбите и проходит через Солнечную систему раз в 3600 лет. К теории Захария Ситчина в научном сообществе отнеслись с недоверием. Астрономы не могли поверить в то, чего не видно в космическом пространстве даже в самые мощные телескопы. Однако уже в начале 80-х, после длительных математических вычислений и построения компьютерных моделей, существование планеты Нибиру было доказано.
В 1982 году НАСА допустило существование большой планеты, которой впоследствии было дано название Нибиру.
В 2005 году американские астрофизики заявили, что на расстоянии приблизительно в 1 световой год от Земли располагается огромное космическое тело. Но главное, на огромной скорости оно приближается к нашей планете. Небесное тело настолько темное, что ни оптические телескопы, ни другие приборы не в состоянии его увидеть. Зафиксировать загадочный космический объект ученые смогли лишь 2 года назад, когда на земную орбиту вышел новый сверхмощный инфракрасный телескоп. То, что увидели астрономы на расшифрованных снимках, сделанных с телескопа, надолго повергло их в шок. В черной пустоте космического пространства четко угадывались очертания огромной планеты. Сомнений уже не оставалось. Это Нибиру.
Инфракрасный спутник, который действительно засек объект достаточно больших размеров, и ему удалось этот объект не только засечь, но и как-то зафиксировать, сфотографировать.
После изучения параметров и траектории движения гигантской планеты, ученые пришли к неутешительному выводу. Нибиру больше Земли в 5 раз. Но самое страшное, через 3 года она может пролететь в нескольких сотнях километров от Земли. Находясь так близко к нашей планете, она запросто сможет сорвать с нее атмосферу. По словам ученых, правительство просто скрывает от человечества правду, чтобы не вызывать панику.
Представители всех военных разведок мира эту информацию о том, что Нибиру может принести значительный ущерб, урон, разрушение и даже гибель жителей Земли, имеют. А не разглашается эта информация и не становится достоянием общественности только лишь потому, что НАСА и все эти структуры хотят спасти...
Here in our solar system, evidence is mounting that either a brown dwarf star or a gas giant planet is lurking at the outermost reaches of our solar system, far beyond the planet Pluto. According to the British newspaper The Independent, the object is 4 times the size of Jupiter. Experts say the presence of such a massive object could explain why a barrage of comets has been coming from that direction. Why a barrage of comets has been coming from that direction.
Third week of November 2016. Nemesis, the brown dwarf star or dark star of the Nibiru Planet X system, was recently photographed with wings. This would imply that the system is most likely inside the orbit of Jupiter, because comets do not develop tails or wings until they reach this orbit. Recent analysis and observations indicate that the dark star appears to be just beyond the orbit of Mars. So the Nemesis Nibiru system would then have to be at the edge of our inner solar system. Many of you have suspected for some time that the world's elite are monitoring its incoming invasion into our solar system. They are preparing underground shelters and are ready to move when the time seems imminent. They know from their own observations that the Nemesis Nibiru passage is approaching. Changes to the Earth and Sun, as well as across our solar system, are becoming more frequent and intense, as I had indicated in my previous videos from 2016. There are two very significant changes which I have emphasized are now taking place. They include the fluctuating magnetic field, which now indicates a major weakening of the geomagnetic field, according to orbiting satellite data, and the other being increased energy output, translating into greater heat, causing rising temperatures. Some of the warning signs are now ongoing, including strange red skies at both sunset and sunrise, strange daytime halos around the sun, and strange red glows emanating from the aurora borealis. These atmospheric anomalies are being caused by the incoming Nemesis Nibiru system. Of greater importance is the concerns of major West Coast earthquakes happening along the predominant fault lines, which recently spewed large amounts of carbon monoxide. NASA satellites in space began detecting staggering large emissions of carbon monoxide gas along the West Coast. As evidenced by this image, the emissions were far too big, too highly concentrated, and covered too vast an area to be man-made. On the satellite image, the areas in black, purple, and brownish orange show the magnitude of the emission. It was utterly massive. In addition, the ground in the Los Angeles, California area has been shifting sideways, as pictured in this image provided in this March 5th article. Another sign that something catastrophic will occur within a particular time frame is the fact that a number of underground sanctuaries, estimated to be around 1,500 worldwide, are mostly ready and stocked for what is to come. Russia has just completed 5,000 underground shelters around Moscow, which confirms that they are already prepared for an event of considerable magnitude. The United States of America has at least 150 or more stocked and ready. In addition, there are more than 1,400 seed vaults worldwide. But the biggest world doomsday seed vault is the Elite's Global Seed Vault located in Norway. Also across America, cities of refuge are being created.
Being an investigator can mean a lot of things. When it comes to investigating homicides, it's basically two things: finding witnesses and taking statements, both of which I'm very good at. In my capacity teaching Missouri concealed carry training so people could get their permits to carry pistols concealed, I've met and debriefed about 24 Navy veterans, men that don't know each other. This is critical. When you interview witnesses who don't know each other, that are basically telling you almost the exact same story, that's very important. It should get your attention. It got my attention. Without exception, these men were all told the following: gentlemen, in your lifetimes, not your children's, not your grandchildren's, gentlemen, in your lifetimes, these oceans are going to come out of their basins, flooding all coastal areas worldwide. Now, they weren't told why. They're sitting in the folding chairs, getting this briefing. They weren't told why it would happen. They were just told that it would happen. There's a group in the United States called the Prophecy Club. They did something with me they'd never done with any other speaker. They sent me on 2 speaking tours in less than a year. The first one had to do with terrorism. The second one had to do with Nibiru, Wormwood, Planet X. So I'm in Detroit, and we got standing room only in this room. And I'm talking about Nibiru, and I'm talking about the Navy veterans living in the Arkansas, Missouri Ozarks. 3-hour presentation, 2 10-minute breaks. At the end of the first break, a gentleman walks up and introduces himself. He says, "John, I'm in the insurance industry. Myself, my coworkers, we've wondered for years, why is there such a cluster of thousands of Navy veterans in the zip codes, the counties of the Arkansas, Missouri Ozarks?" He said, "Now we know. Now we know." That's why I've bumped into so many of these men in these pistol classes, because when they retired, they wanted their families to be safe and move to one of the known safe areas. We'll be talking more about that later this afternoon. What are safe areas? Why are they safe? And what you can do to be safe yourself. And it doesn't apply just to the United States, it applies worldwide. When I was talking to Alexandra about coming here over the past 2 months, she initially asked me what my thoughts were when I first found out about this, and when I determined that, first of all, it was real, and second of all, that the United States government was not going to inform anybody. I told Alexandra I was very angry that our government would do nothing to inform our people, to help them be safe. I was very angry. That was 17 years ago. I've now come to an entirely different conclusion, however. If they had informed people in 1979 or 1980, it wouldn't change much. To create housing, fresh water, have places for people to stay and work in the middle of the country, that couldn't happen in 1979. It can't happen now. It's too much. That infrastructure does not exist and won't exist. Informing people what would happen would only lead to early death and early misery for people who are going to die anyway. That's the conclusion I've come to. It's my reality. In the meantime, I inform as many people as I can personally because it's the right thing to do. If you go through the history books, you'll find a cycle of about every 3,600 years. You go back 3,600 years ago, 7,200 years ago, and so forth. Major civilizations collapsing and new civilizations coming up about every 3,600 years. That's what the evidence shows. Something cataclysmic happens to this planet about every 3,600 years. And we, all of you listening and watching, we're the generation that's going to experience the next one. I'm absolutely convinced of it. The United States government is convinced of it. The Russian government's convinced of it. The Chinese government. You think they built those beautiful new cities in China for work programs? I don't believe so, no. They built them because they need them. They built them because they have no choice. You think the Russian government hollowed out entire mountains to house millions of people as a work program? I don't believe so. They did it because they had no choice. The U.S. government is not taking care of their people. They're not building shelters for the American population. They have built very extensive, very nice shelters for their own people, the military, government officials, but not for the American population. Now, I've heard, and I haven't verified, that Norway has notified their people to a certain extent. I interviewed a man from Switzerland, and he says, John, it's not quite real common, but somewhat common knowledge in Switzerland about the violently rising ocean levels. So there's a whole subcurrent of people worldwide that know about this, governments that know about this, and are making plans and spending hundreds of millions, billions of dollars to prepare for this event. If there's anything I can get across to the people watching this DVD, this film, is that you need to pay heed. You need to do your own independent research. You need to come to your own conclusions. You can believe that China built massive, brand new, shiny cities for tens of millions of people as a work project, or you can believe they built them because they have no choice. I tend to believe the latter. You can believe that the CIA moved thousands of employees, their families, their furniture, their dogs, 1,700 miles for no good reason, or you can believe they did it because they had no choice. The Denver airport is a fascinating place. I haven't been inside. I've driven past it half a dozen times. I don't really want to go in there. They moved enough dirt there to build a brand new Panama Canal. That's a lot of dirt. Millions of cubic yards, cubic meters of dirt. There's basically an underground city there. When you start looking at Nibiru, one of the first things people want to find out if their aunt's home near the ocean is going to be underwater. If their home near the ocean is going to be underwater. That's an understandable thing. It's a very human thing. You want to know if people you care about are going to be safe. There's a lot more to it than that, however. A lot more. A lot of people, Americans, I do private consultations, and I'm certainly willing to do private consultations here in Europe. They look at these maps, at this map, the map that was up there a moment ago, and they say, oh, there's a safe place. The Appalachian Mountains, good high elevation, plenty of rainfall, mild winters. And I agree with them. Great altitude, plenty of water, mild winters. Appalachian Mountains are, well, how can I describe this? You got Tennessee and North Carolina, South Carolina, right down where those states meet. Here's the problem with the Appalachian Mountains. What is this there? Oh, a pointer. Oh, how neat. They're going to make me high-tech anyway. The Appalachian Mountains are right here. And the Blue Ridge Parkway is right where the water stops. Pretty nifty, huh? Totally lost my place there. Here's the problem. You've got 75, 80 million people along in here. Basically, here's Washington, D.C. is about here. Boston's about here. It's one continuous city between Boston and Washington, D.C. is basically one city of maybe 50 million people. And then between here and here, you've got maybe 75 million people, many millions of which will figure out what's happening in time to get in their cars and take off to wherever they think might be safe, which is probably going to be the Appalachian Mountains. That's the problem with the Appalachian Mountains. In Europe, you've got similar situations. Most of France will be underwater, parts of Germany, and so forth. Millions of people, they'll figure out this water's coming, and they want to go someplace safe. Well, the Swiss Alps, Bavaria, so forth. If they have time, they're going to go there. You can count on it. One of the things I write about in my paper, No Need for Panic, there we go, is the government's plural, not just the American government, but all these governments. As we get close to the event, there's going to be something happen. Maybe Ebola, maybe terrorist attacks, maybe a combination economic collapse. Whatever the event or events are, it will be so severe that when the government tells people to stay at home to be safe, almost all of them will stay at home to be safe, because that will appear to be the right thing to do, the proper thing to do, to be safe, to stay home, as opposed to going to Bavaria or the Swiss Alps or any high point. By the time they do figure out that they need to go to those places, it'll be too late. The government's job, in their opinion, is to protect themselves, with the exceptions, of course, of what the Chinese are doing for their chosen people, what Russians are doing with their chosen people. And once again, that's kept from the public. Most people in China don't know about these brand new cities. If they do, they don't think anything about it. Most people in Russia don't know about the underground cities in the Ural Mountains. When the time comes, the designated people will be moved to the new cities in China, to the underground cities in the Ural Mountains. What will England do? Well, they got some I don't know if I'd call them mountains, they got them hills, and they're already moving critical infrastructure, critical government offices to the Highlands of Scotland. That's already happening. The royal family will probably take off for the Rocky Mountains in Canada, I imagine, someplace they think is safe. All these things are happening behind the scenes without public knowledge, without public discourse, and we'll continue to do that. Our outreach here with video on YouTube, it's going to save a lot of lives. A lot of people will watch this and say, that's a bunch of silliness. Let's go watch the football game. Others will watch it and they will move forward and do their own homework and do their own research and come to their own independent conclusions, separate and apart from what John Moore says. Don't take my word for it. Do your own homework. Come to your own conclusions. Read, read, read. In the States, and I know Europe doesn't have the same problem we do, most adults under age 50 in the United States, for them, reading is not fun. Reading is not pleasurable. If they do it at all, it's because they have no choice. That's most adults in the United States under age 50. And it's a consequence of public education and what they've done to us. By design, by the way. By design. But for those who can read and will read, there's a lot to know. The bibliography at the end of my DVD, you're going to read 20,000 pages or more. If you really want to comprehend this, if you really want to understand it, what's happening, how it's going to happen, why it's going to happen, you need to read a lot. If you just watch my 4-hour DVD, you'll learn enough to get you started, hopefully. I've had entire families sit down and watch these 4 hours without saying a word. I get emails and phone calls all the time from people who began this quest, began by watching my DVD and going on to do the research, come to conclusions. Once you've looked at Nibiru, Planet X, Wormwood, once you come and understand it, you can get carried away with the overwhelming knowledge that you've acquired, with the knowledge that the world that you know will cease to exist. As one man said, federal government employee, he says, "John, I'm too old to learn how to live all over again." But that's where we're going to be. We'll be living the lifestyle of our grandparents, our great-grandparents, an agrarian lifestyle, growing our own food, not going any farther than we can walk in half a day because you want to get back at the end of the day. I know in the States, when they were setting up our states and counties, they set up enough counties that the county seat would be half a day horse ride from the farthest location in the county. So a man could ride his horse to the county seat, conduct business, and get back before dark. Before the 1930s in the States, government was at the county level. Very little involvement with the state government, almost no involvement at all with the federal government before the Great Depression in the 1930s. We're going to go back to that in the States, in Europe, in Asia. Government will be, if it exists at all, government will be at the local level. Now, there'll be a federal government that thinks they're in charge, but they won't be. They won't have the communications. They won't have the ability to go out and do much at all. There's other possibilities involving geopolitics, what the Russians may want to do and what the Chinese may want to do. That's another whole area that could be another whole lecture, which I'm qualified to talk about, but we're not here to talk about that. Now, your emphasis has to be on your family, on your community. One of the things I warn people about is what I call the island concept of preparedness. My family and I, we're going to get our 40 acres, 80 acres, put a fence around it, and it's us against the world. That's a disaster waiting to happen, is all that is. That's all that is. You need to be part of a community of like-minded people, as we say. And after the event, there's going to be a lot of like-minded people that will figure out real quick that they need to come together as a community. The community I live in, Crawford County, Missouri, we have a local preparedness group. We have monthly training, things like first aid, communications, map and compass reading, CPR. We have a movie every Friday night, which is a social event. Get together and get to know each other. Have fun. Have some hot popcorn. It's all part of building a community. Do not think that you and your family can hold off the world. That's a disaster waiting to happen. If you think you can do that, you're wrong. You're absolutely wrong. You need to be part of a community that will come together as a community to survive together.
Good evening and welcome back. It's Matt Rogers, 24th of the 8th, 2017. And again, I believe that NOAA is tracking the system. They know the weather patterns around the world are very much abrupt and they are changing because Nibiru is coming very close to our celestial body, the Earth. The UK government here as well, they've been lying to us all the time. It's just a stage. They just want to keep our eyes down. They don't want us to see those chemtrails up in the sky. The Prime Minister, again, is just lying to us. We are all being fooled. The powers that be control these people. These are puppeteers that just basically show and talk through the TV channels to give us disinformation all the time. Again, NASA, never a straight answer. They will just lie through those teeth as the powers that be control them. Coming out with some very bizarre excuses and lies as they can see and track Nibiru every single day. This guy on the image here is just a complete liar, phallicist. Let's take a look through inside these underground cities that they have been building for many years, stocking up and just carrying on using our taxpayers' money to dig tunnels deep underground because they know that the Nibiru system is getting closer now. And we do too, seeing those red reflections in the sky. They really truly think that they're going to be safe down there, packed away deep underground, until they think that the situation will be clear so they can get back up on the land again and start controlling the world with their banking system. These tunnels, these underground cities, are deep underground, hundreds of miles deep, different chambers and tunnels. The powers that be are doing this right under our noses every day. The government. They all think they've got a place to stay down there as well. Just look at the size of these indoor facilities for them to be kept safe. Packing food from Walmarts across all parts of the areas, the cities above on the land. They need to be exposed. We need to get all the information as well and start speaking out the truth. Again, the governments from all over the world, they need to say something now for everybody to prepare for this incoming event. Everybody deserves to know what's going down. Our skies are changing, huge reflections, dark cloud systems. Our weather patterns have been manipulated by the system. Those chemtrails. I'm going to go to other subscribers' images now, and please take care and have a safe evening. We've got a first image, excellent image, coming from Paul Brankin from the UK. He says he sees a red haze up in the skies as well. A fantastic image. He is a true Nibiru believer as well, and seeing other objects up there as well. This pink haze is getting awfully a lot stronger now. So again, Paul, thank you for this photograph, and also respect to you for sending that fantastic message as well. This next image is coming from Rebecca from Colorado. Now, again, it's far too bright, and this is what this respected lady subscriber said, and it was just coated with chemtrails. Trash up there in the heavens. Look at the sky, look at those chemtrails. So again, there is more people coming forward, and that's fantastic, isn't it? Because we are all seeing those changes. Thank you for your photograph, and if you can get any other images, please send them in. We will show these later on another video. Okay, we have another image from Minnesota, another area in the USA, and this kind subscriber, Star Cantor, this chap is saying when he was driving his car, it just got very, very dark. For the time of the day at 12 p.m, a red haze on the opposite side, lowered clouds. This system is being lowered, being altered by the system. It really got dark, and it really worried him as well, because he's never seen it get so dim in the skies, the reflections and everything. So again, thank you for this photograph. Okay, we've got some fantastic images coming in as well from Catty from Cardiff in the UK, and she's taken a close shot of this reflection that we see in the skies. Okay, again, I believe they are cloaking this area, and I believe also that the moon didn't eclipse the sun. Something else did. Something is in front of the sun. We all know this now, don't we? It is far too dim in the skies every day. There is something in front eclipsing our sun all the time. Look at this photograph. Now, Catty, what she's done is taken this image, but she was very, very worried that it was very dark. Far too dim in our skies. Really have to study the skies. Between 12 p.m. and 3 p.m. we see a dark reflection, a dark haze up there as well. I'm going to show another one of Catty's images. This is the next photograph that you can see. It just is so obvious that there's something that's reflecting up in the sky. There is an object that's coming through. A large celestial body that's reflecting. Dark skies. Again, this is before the first image, as it was getting darker. Here's the next attachment from Catty from Cardiff, and she says there's an object that was up there that was reflecting this celestial round object. Can you see this? Very, very strange. So she caught this straight away and sent the email to me today. I thank you also for your kind email, and again, you are seeing other bodies that are up there reflecting. They chemtrail to hide these all the time now, because we're on Mother Earth, this huge celestial body, okay, that's in space, in our inner solar system. There's lots of trash that's up there as well now, that's being knocked about. And these objects are going to appear, aren't they? We're going to see these in our skies. Thank you for your images, Catty. Okay, these next attachments are coming in from Paula from Galveston. We get some excellent images all the time. This lady is a professional photographer and she takes some fantastic images. Now, look at that haze here. There's another colour from another body that's out there. This light source here is from the Sol, the sun that's going down. There's something else. I want to show you the other image to prove this as well. Where you saw that first image, okay, with that object that was reflecting here on the horizon, it's gone down now. Look at this. This reflection from the Sol as well, the sun. It's going down from this side. Two objects reflecting. Fantastic photographs, and thank you for sending these in. Here's another truthful, very interesting image as well. We see this all the time, don't we? Look at this dark shadow. Look at this line in the sky. Very dark this side, and then we get this light sky to the right hand side. Again, they are using technology to hide things, using mirrors to block out what they don't want us to see. A fantastic photograph proving that there is something that's being manipulated up in the heavens. We have more attachments that's come in from Dennis, a fantastic friend. Sends me a lot of emails, a lot of information as well, and also many photographs showing that there is huge changes. Now Dennis, again, is prepared for this, and he is so right in what he's saying, that the chemtrailing's got far too much worse than any year that they've sprayed our skies. And he reads in between the lines of the government as well on the news media channels. He spots a lie straight away. He knows that there is a huge problem out there in our inner solar system. And again, these images are fantastic. All your images are fantastic. Every single subscriber that sends photographs in are doing a really cool job to getting the truth out there. Look at these chemtrails. Again, a pink reflection as well. All this is unnatural cloud formations. And we need to expose the powers to be. We need to stand up for ourselves now. We need to stand and defend ourselves. This is our Earth. This is our world. We deserve to breathe fresh air, not this pollution that's killing us. To many people around the world as well that believe the media channels, the weather channels, they would think that these are just normal clouds. Well, they're not. We've got grey haze up there and we've got chemtrails. Another outstanding image. Thank you, Dennis.
So, what is going on? Why was the Revelation 12 verse from the Bible mentioned earlier? Without the Bible, it is not possible to understand what is happening. For a clear understanding, we must look at the following Bible passage, Revelation 12.
The great sign in heaven of Revelation chapter 12, verse 1. A great sign appeared in heaven, a woman clothed with the sun and the moon under her feet, and on her head a crown of 12 stars. And she was with child, and she cried out, being in labor and in pain to give birth. Jesus calls such events fearful sights and great signs from heaven. The great sign from heaven will be the largest sign that has ever heralded a prophetic event. We are on the Temple Mount in Jerusalem. It is 3 in the morning on September 23, 2017. The first constellation in the great sign is rising above the horizon. This is Leo, the constellation of the royal lion. When the dawn breaks, we'll see that Leo is worn as a crown of royalty by the virgin princess. The lion forms the appropriate crown for her because she is of the house of David, the lion of the tribe of Judah. Significantly, this is the highest royal lineage of all the nations. This means the virgin is also born of the lineage of the high scepter of the seed of Adam. In her belly is the second Adam, the Savior of the world. On this fateful day, the virgin is clothed in the sun, and the moon is at her feet. Sunlight floods the sky, and since the virgin is clothed in the sun, we cannot see her, so we turn off her artwork. But the prophecy clearly states that the great sign is to appear in the heaven. High noon approaches. Then, on this special day, the sun turns as black as sackcloth, and the stars quickly fill the sky. Just like on the day of the crucifixion, it will remain dark for an incredible 3 hours. We stop the motion and zoom in. We fill the screen with our 2 constellations. To better see how the constellations are formed, we generate blue lines between their stars. Then we turn off the constellation artwork, leaving us with the lines of each constellation. We first turn our attention to the constellation of Leo. In Leo, the alpha or brightest star is Regulus, the regal king star. 8 additional bright stars are used to form the constellation. But this leaves us 3 stars short of the 12 stars prophesied to crown the Virgin. On this special day, 3 wandering stars are in rare formation within the boundaries of Leo. They are Venus, Mars, and Mercury. This gives us the prophesied 12 stars to form the crown. Now we move to Virgo. Her left hip is formed by the Alpha star named Spica, which means the seed. Her right hip is formed by the Zeta star named Hes, which means the branch. On this day, the Virgin is to give birth to the king planet between these two stars. Like all the planets, Jupiter, which images the Messiah, was misnamed and misdescribed by the Greeks. The king planet images the rescuing power of our Messiah. Because of this planet's gravitational strength, it takes countless hits or impacts for us from many of the dangerous objects that cross into the inner solar system. Also, the king planet has just spent 9 months in the belly of the Virgin, reinforcing the prophetic imagery of the Scriptures. To illustrate this wonder, we will now run the clock backward for a year. Notice that the king planet stops and turns around twice in retrograde motion while in the belly of the Virgin. In turn, the moon flies by along the ecliptic every month. This action by the moon will give us a means to mark the passing of the months. We stop our backward motion. We now change into forward motion. We pause the motion as Jupiter enters the belly of the Virgin. Now count the times that the moon flies by while Jupiter is in the Virgin's belly. Are you ready? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And in just under 10 months, we arrive back at our fateful day, September 23rd, 2017. Now we will recap the prophetic imagery in the great sign. First, we have Virgo, the Virgin Princess, imaging the Virgin Mary. Second, the Virgin is clothed in the sun, imaging the life-giving Spirit of God. Third, the crescent moon is at her feet, heralding this day as the Jewish Feast of Trumpets. Fourth, on this day, the Virgin also has a special crown of 12 stars, representing the lineage of the high throne of the nation of Israel. Fifth, the Virgin gives birth to the crown prince, the Messiah. Sixth, the crown prince has just spent a long 9 months in her womb, the time of human gestation. Seventh, so we can see this wonder, a special heavenly event causes the sky to fall dark for 3 hours in the middle of the day. The combination of all 7 of these independent actions into a great sign brings to life the exact imagery of the prophecy. However, if this sign were to occur repeatedly in the course of the travels of the planets, then how could we interpret it as a significant event? How often does this configuration occur in the heavens? The answer, it occurs only this one time. At no other time is the Virgin clothed in the sun, with the moon at her feet, while she is wearing a crown of 12 stars at the same time she gives birth. We have found no astronomy program that shows this configuration occurring at any other time throughout history, from the days of Adam, 6,000 years in the past, until the end of the millennial reign, 1,000 years into our future. Yet, this wonder was described in detail in Revelation chapter 12, nearly 2,000 years ago. The astounding fulfillment of this great prophecy is like a clarion blast of God's trumpet, broadcasting to all that the sign is a magnificent herald of end times events. Furthermore, its appearance is to occur on the exact day the Lord intends, a plan He laid out before He created the heavens. This means the great sign is an event that cannot be anything less than a miraculous herald of prophetic events. Furthermore, the imagery does not end with the first 2 verses we just read in Revelation 12. On this day, a famous comet carrying the Rosetta probe is beside the crescent moon. This comet bodes a day of disaster for the moon god of Islam. At noon, the foot of the Virgin is on one side of the moon, the comet is on the other. By the end of the day, the moon will be under the Virgin's feet. This day in 2017 is also unique for other reasons. As mentioned, this is the day of the Feast of Trumpets, one of the 7 appointed feasts of the Lord. The 7 feasts are prophetic of the 7 most significant events in redemptive history. Jesus was crucified on the first spring feast. This is the day of the first fall feast. In turn, this day on this unique year is also on the weekly 7th-day Sabbath. Finally, it is also the day of the fall equinox. Incredibly, all of these date markers in the heavens are occurring on the same day on the Lord's calendar. The day progresses. At 3 in the afternoon, the eclipse will be over. The sun reappears and shines for 3 more hours before it sets in the west. At this point, the great wonder becomes the herald of great terror. The heavenly body that blocked the sun for 3 hours is immense enough to carry large debris rings of ice and sulfur, rings composed of material much like the rings of Saturn, only larger. Soon the earth must pass through one of these rings. This is when the firestorm of the Golden Empire occurs. It is the day of the death of Babylon the Great, which is the proud city of Sodom, which is the unrepentant empire. In 1 hour's time, 1/3 of mankind will die. Foreseeing the intensity of the hour, the Lord has foretold time and again that not one person who calls upon his name will be lost. The shouting and terror begins. Jerusalem will be safe from the firestorm because of the earth's rotation. In contrast, unmitigated disaster falls upon the Western world. The great sign in heaven heralds the world's entrance into end times troubles. God's grace is manifested in this sign. It has been created to warn us, flee from the wrath to come. The day of the anger of the Lamb is approaching, for the great day of his wrath is come, and who shall be able to stand? The only way for you to flee is to flee to the Lord. The wise men had the eyes to see that the star of Bethlehem meant a prophetic day was upon them. They then acted on what they saw. Do you have the eyes to see that the great sign from heaven means a prophetic day is upon you? The most famous star of history was a herald of good news. In contrast, God is going to use the largest sign in history to herald terrifying news. The first herald called forth shouts of great joy. This second herald will call forth shouts of great terror. The great sign is so significant, there are at least 3 forerunner signs preparing the way for its appearance. The blood moon tetrad, the famous comet carrying the Rosetta probe, and the great American eclipse of 2017. Midway between the blood moons of 2014, the Caliphate of Islam was reborn. This event constitutes the birth of the little horn, the 8th prophetic king described in Revelation chapter 17. It will become the empire of the beast. The great comet carrying the Rosetta probe passed into the constellations of the great sign on the very day of the 4th blood moon, stitching together end times signs. It will remain in the great sign for 2 years and be beside the moon when the great sign appears, boding disaster for Allah and his new caliphate. The great American eclipse of August 21st, 2017. This solar eclipse sweeps around half the earth but brings darkness to only one land, the United States of America. This is the final heads-up call to awaken. Cataclysmic judgment is only 33 days away. The Great American Firestorm will arrive 33 days after the Great American Eclipse of 2017. God's purpose of fearful sights and great signs from heaven is to bring many people who would not have done so otherwise to call upon the name of the Lord. For the same Lord over all is rich unto all that call upon him. For whosoever shall call upon the name of the Lord shall be saved. God has designed special configurations among the stars to function as signs. They are signs that herald prophetic events on the earth. This heralding will serve notice before the eyes of the world that the time of events foretold by the Lord has arrived. All this means the great sign in heaven has full authority to function as a public event, legally documenting the final great warning of God. The Lord is the great prophet. As a prophet, he is accountable to warn all who are under his ministry. The great wonder in heaven is his imminent and astounding warning to all. The time of judgment is here. This judgment is written in the book. This judgment is written in the stars. The prophets have warned you. This judgment is just. This means the Lord cannot be charged with any wrong against man or angel for the judgment he is bringing upon the world. You are served notice. The Lord's end times events are about to overtake you. The great sign in heaven is the colossal herald proclaiming that the prophetic troubles of the last days have arrived. Most of us refuse to believe God's work by faith, while we will believe his working through a sign. So God is going to give us a sign, a great sign. This great sign will herald sudden and great judgment. But why? The rebel lawmakers of the Golden Empire have foolishly attacked Christian purity. The attack on purity is because the lawmakers will not have holiness to rule over them. But to reject God's holiness is to reject God himself. In the end, the rebels' own reasoning forces them to declare war on God. As soon as the rebels feel bold enough, open war breaks out. In defiance, they reach out and seize their own court officers that are still walking in holiness. At this point, the spirit of Sodom overtakes the land. The Lord acts swiftly. The judgment of Sodom will be poured out on the spirit of Sodom. The Lord begins moving into place a storehouse for the day of battle. Like little David, all he needs is some rocks. The day of battle arrives. It is a day of fearful sights and great signs from heaven. The Lord takes aim, and the golden Goliath suddenly falls. The empire will die in 1 hour, unrepentant in its wickedness. The unrepentant empire and the church in the unrepentant empire have together refused to confess the empire's fatal sin. What is this fatal sin that brings such sudden judgment? Our fatal sin is the replacement of holiness with human rights as our guiding moral principle in life and government. This is in direct opposition to the Lord's decree, "You shall be holy, for I, the Lord your God, am holy." The manifest insanity of pornographic rights, abortion rights, and homosexual rights is the diseased fruit of the doctrine of human rights. This is why evil has become good, and good has become evil in our land. The unrepentant adherence to the doctrine of human rights that is producing the trampling of the holiness of God in our courts is the guarantee of the firestorm of the Golden Empire. Your only hope will be to turn to the Lord Jesus Christ. For Jesus himself said, "As earnestly as I can say to you, unless one is born again, he cannot see the kingdom of God."
Back in the 1950s, most people aren't aware of it, but there was a scientific storm in America all through the late 50s about this thing out there in space because the astronomers were all watching it, and that was back when they weren't afraid to talk about it. It was in the science magazines. I mean, I had a subscription to, like, Popular Science, and hell, it was on the front cover of the magazine one day in, like, 1961. And I was really excited when I saw it because here's this giant red planet on the horizon of the California coast and a humongous tidal wave coming in towards the coast. And having grew up in the mountains of the Sierras, and this thing in the magazine, it said this tidal wave coming in was going to be at least 3 miles high. And I went in and showed it to everybody in the house, and they laughed, and they said, "Look, it says right here, there's nothing to worry about. It won't be here for another 50 years. Hey, guess what? That 50 years has came and gone. And this baby's out there in the sky. They've been watching it. I watched it. And I can tell you, this thing has got so much trash coming around it. You know how we live in a solar system? We've got 9 planets and a big sun. This thing has got 7 planets and its own sun. But I believe that instead of having dirt on it like our planet does and water, I think this thing is just a big, bright reddish-orange iron ball because it's giving off all this red iron oxide dust out into the atmosphere. When we thought at first it was just a teeny little red speck of fuzzy red dust in the distance, but over the years as it went by and we watched it, it got bigger and bigger and bigger. And then finally, about 2008, we could see this thing like it was across the street, and we could see that it was a blazing hot ball of fire giving out sparkles of red iron oxide dust for thousands of miles in every direction. And you could see the planet circulating it. Now, I'll tell you one thing that I really am nervous about. I think this thing's got a planet like ours circling it. This is its own solar system. We're about to have a solar system come through the middle of our solar system. This can't be good. But unfortunately, it looks as though that's what's going to happen. Hopefully nothing in this mess will hit us, even though it does say it will in the Bible, at leastwise it does in my Bible. It says we can expect all kinds of problems. We were looking at asteroids. Right close to this thing, there's asteroids that are floating around right near the, that are orbiting the main sun itself. These things appear to be about 500 miles across. And as you go back into the tail, you get into meteorites that go back for millions of miles in the tail. This thing looks like a giant red teardrop-shaped dust cloud. And you can see, once if you're able to see it up close like we did, you can see every speck out there. I guarantee you there's trillions of meteorites following this thing. Now, these CIA people that I know say that we're not going to be that close to it when it goes past us. They're saying that in order to attain breakaway speed, when it comes up around the backside of the sun, its speed will at least double, possibly more, which will put it here earlier than everybody is saying it will, and that this thing will probably be about 20 million miles from us when it crosses in front of us. And then as soon as it flips us upside down, we're going to go into its debris-filled tail and be pelted with meteorites. And, of course, in the Bible it says they will, a talon, 70 pounds. So if you've got 70-pound meteorites falling like hail, and I can guarantee you they will be falling like hail because there are that many in the tail of this thing. This thing has got a tail loaded with trash. I mean, it's incredible the amount of stuff that's in this thing's tail. And we're going to go right through that tail, and if it doesn't beat everything on the surface of the ground into a flat putty, I don't know what it'll take. I tell everybody, you better be at least 20, 30, 40, 50 feet on the ground and have either concrete or stone above you, because it'll break through the roof or whatever you've got if you don't. These CIA guys told me that this pole shift will probably happen from start to finish in around 28 minutes. That doesn't give you a lot of warning. When you see that thing out there in the sky, you're going to have to run as fast as you can to your underground facility, because this is going to happen so fast. Now, see, here's another thing nobody's talking about. You've got this giant iron planet that they say is 47,000 miles across, getting ready to come up past us. And when it starts to approach us, it's going to start and have real serious effects.
So is it a planet or a failed star?
It's not a failed star. You know, I saw this thing up close. It did not look like a failed star. It looked just like our sun.
Right.
Okay. Would you call our sun a failed star?
No. Okay, well, you had said planet. I wasn't sure if it was like a failed star brown dwarf or a full sun. So it's a full sun?
It looks to me like a miniature sun, just like the one we have. The only difference is our sun is giving off flames and stuff, and this one's doing the same thing as it, but it's giving off this red iron oxide cloud of dust around it, and until it got close, we couldn't even tell what was in there. We could see it was hot, and it looked like it was just a dull red when we were first able to discern it through the red cloud. But as it approached, it started to become more apparent that this thing is just orange hot. I mean, to tell how hot it is, I was told that they estimated between 5 and 10 million degrees, but, you know, I don't really know, if that's right or not. I mean, it's got to be pretty hot because it's sending all of this red iron oxide dust out into space around it.
Right.
And it's got this enormous, and I mean enormous, at least 50 or 100,000 miles on each side of it, this red dust cloud that goes all the way around it. I know when we were watching it, as it started to make the upward swing to approach behind our sun, it was amazing. The red dust cloud settled down. Instead of being round, it started to settle down into a V, like wings, upside-down wings.
Right.
And I thought, boy, I wonder if that's where the ancient Sumerians got the idea this thing had wings, because, you know, centrifugal force is a funny thing. When it comes back up around the planet, when we see it in the sky, my guess is it's going to look like it's got wings, because centrifugal force is going to be pulling the red iron oxide dust and particles out to one side.
This is Dabu7. This is an update to a video I put out a few years ago. You may recall that I put out a video talking about the Red Dragon of Revelation. And what brought this about was the fact that it was sitting in a very unique spot in the heavens, which I'm about to show you on another map. And it was at these coordinates. Now, if you go over to Google Sky and you try to find this object, it is gone. It is not there. It's nowhere to be found. They do not show it. If you go over to Google Sky View, though, and you punch in those same coordinates, you will find this. This is rather interesting to me because this is an area they went out of their way to black out and to hide. as you can see right here in this shot, you can see the area between the legs of the Virgin was completely blacked out as this constellation or this object, whatever it is, was starting to move out from behind that patched area. So what we have now over at Skyviews, if you go looking, you will find this image. This is what was hiding behind there the whole time. And in correlation to this year, 2017, I put another video out talking about Revelation and the Virgin with the moon at her feet, with the crown of 12 stars above her head, clothed in the sun. And Jupiter will be going in between, right in here in her womb, in a swirling motion, and then exiting. Well, it's interesting that this red dragon is sitting right there between the legs of the Virgin, almost as to devour whatever she is going to give birth to. This matches Revelation 3 and 4, where it talks about the dragon sitting there at her feet waiting to devour her child. So this is very interesting. Now, further to the left out of frame here, and if you go over to Stellarium, you'll be able to look at the constellations. You will see there is a serpent right down below her feet as well. But the serpent is wrestling with a man, and that is the newer constellation of Ophiuchus. What that actually is, in my opinion, is showing you Michael battling the serpent. And it's right there at her feet. And then we have this object of all places. We have to stop and think about this for just a second. What were the odds that everything aligned to give us the September date this year in 2017 for the woman to be clothed with the moon at her feet, everything matching that specific date? Then you have this coincidence of this massive blacked out spot that they're trying to hide. And then when we find out what's behind it, it is this ominous looking thing that sure enough looks like the face or the head of a dragon or something crazy. It fits the description. Now you can go over here and you can tweak some of the color exposures. You can see there's green. There's a different output. There's all kinds of different ones that you can mess with here. It's there. The features are there. You can see they are standing out. And it is very, very interesting. So what is it exactly? We dealing with is it like a binary set of stars around one another here at this point? I'm not sure. But what I do know is they went out of their way for the longest time to cover this up and hide it. Now you can see it if you go over here. Follow the links that I leave. Come over to this page. Make sure up here that everything, when you get to the page, leave everything the way it is, but move this to Iris 100 micron. And then you can go down here and you can also adjust the colors like I was just showing you. This is what is in the skies, and it just so happens to be sitting right there between the legs of the Virgin. And it looks to be this ominous dragon, and they were going out of their way to hide it. That is the big red flag here, guys. So now that you know what's there, you know, it's been a while, and we are in 2017. I wanted to put this back out there and let it be known that when we approach this date with the Virgin, that this is tied into it as well. I'll leave links. It's been Dabu7. Eyes to the skies.
Hello YouTube, newsletter, and survival group subscribers. This is Terrell from Terrell03.com. Today is August 24th, 2017. This is the update report connected to volume 34. Seismic indicators say Earth is moving near the end. It's the same report, near the end of the first Earth change lull period. I mean, we're right there, nearing the bottom. Black star is in the Libra constellation, just below the ecliptic plane. It has Jupiter and Saturn on either side. We can look at the solar system, show you where we're at. The Black star position. See, Libra is right here in the background. See, when I'm saying it's in Libra, it doesn't mean it's way out here, way that far away. This thing is just about where my cursor is relative to the sun. It's just about right here. But Libra is the background constellation. So being on just about right here relative to the sun, I mean, it's right here. You can see we're right close to the 90-degree angle. That's why we're getting these lower values. We passed between the sun and the black star on May the 9th. Then we started coming around this way, and the magnetic portal connection between Earth and the black star lengthened. That's what caused the dramatic lull period moving through this period, less electromagnetism. Combination of Jupiter and Saturn in the same quadrant of space with the black star sends a lot of the redirected solar electromagnetism. The energy is going to these planets that are in near proximity as we're racing away. So that gives us less electromagnetism being injected into our planet. That's going to change when we get right in this area here. The black star is coming in this direction. It's going to eventually reach perihelion between the sun and Sagittarius, back over behind us. So we're moving through the area of space where the black star is heading, moving through September. We're going to be beyond that in October. That's why I'm predicting big seismicity, big volcanism for right here in September. Mini lull in October, and then the biggest stuff of the year will be coming as we're passing behind the sun relative to the black star. So that's where we are in the solar system. Might have to pull that window up again. I'll leave it open.